Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of voice of radio. So today, it's time to count down the top 10 cards from the recently released Starbirth over in Japan. Now this is of course very interesting, because Starbirth in Japan is going to make the majority of our Brilliant Star set, and I'm going to say this right off the bat. This is a good set. Oftentimes with the Japanese sets, when I'm doing the top 10s, I get a little bit generous towards the bottom because they're not looking amazing. Here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm cutting off cards from the top 10, which I think could be really, really good. Now, in terms of artwork, just as a little side note before we get going, I think the number one card in the set for artwork is Electabuzz. And you'll know I'm an Okacheke fanboy at this stage, and I'm not even sorry about it. I think this is one of the most brilliant pieces of artwork we've seen, especially on just a regular common card in years. Although I do want to give a shout out to Pachirisu here. I do think the artwork on that Pachirisu is absolutely stunning, and it's one of the cards that's made me go and take another look at Hayaganosuke here as one of the best artists in the Pokemon TCG. Weirdly, both lightning Pokemon, that wasn't deliberate, that just kind of happened. Now, one card that I desperately wanted to put on the list, but it did not make it, is Farfetch'd. Farfetch'd looks like a phenomenal card that is going to have a pretty big impact, because it's got an attack for just 2 colorless energy, lets you do 20 damage base, plus 10 more for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. So if they've got, 180 damage on, you do 190, put them up to 370. It basically lets you do the second hit of a 2-hit KO for just a basic Pokemon and a twin energy, for instance, or an energy we're going to look at in a moment. And the fact that you can do that so easily really does make me think, especially if you're playing stuff like Twin Energy anyway, or any kind of energy acceleration, because it is just 2 colorless energy, people are going to put Farfetch'd in, just because, you know what? If I'm going to be 2-hit KOing, wouldn't it be lovely if the second hit could use very little resources? Raichu V is the other one that I wanted to put on this list, but just could not justify putting on there. It's got a really rather awesome attack. For 2 lightning energy, you discard any amount of lightning energy from all of your Pokemon, dealing 60 more for each energy discarded in this way. It is in fact a better version of Blacephalon GX's attack, because you discard not Lost Zone, and it's 60 times, not 50 times. But Blacephalon had a lot of help, things like Welder and Beastring, that could get the energy on. Raichu doesn't have that at the moment. We do have Flaffy, which is awesome, but I'm not sure Raichu's got the support at the moment for me to put it on this list. So in at number 10, I'm cheating a tiny bit, we are putting Collapse Stadium and Magma Basin, the 2 new stadiums from the set that look really, really good. Now, Magma Basin is a very fun one. That's one of the ones we've actually seen in English, and essentially lets you attach a fire energy from your discard pile to one of your bench fire Pokemon at the cost of 2 damage counters. And sure, it's not as good as when we had Welder and Boo-Hiss, etc., but if you want to accelerate fire energy in fire decks, this one is absolutely brilliant. Collapse Stadium is similarly very, very nice. It just puts both players down to 4 bench Pokemon. Any deck that relies on having many bench Pokemon is going to be really hurt by this. But even if not, most of the time we want our 5 bench spaces. This could be super annoying. In at number 9, we've got Empoleon, and it's one of these ones that I really thought was going to end up being a little bit higher. Now, it's not for the attack here. The attack is fine. Lets you deal 60 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon, including a bench, for a single water energy. Like I've said, it's fine, but it's not particularly good or exciting or anything along those lines. But it's got an ability once during your turn, if this card is in your discard pile, and you have no cards in your hand, you can bench it and draw 3 cards. And that's good enough for me, ladies and gentlemen. That is good enough for me, because frankly, I can play this and just bin it in my discard pile, and then at some point late in the game, I'm absolutely desperate, I clear my hand, I draw 3 cards, yes. I adore this as emergency draw, and I could see myself playing this as a one-of in almost every deck moving forward. I absolutely adore it. A card that I do not adore In at number 8 is ROSEANN'S, back up. But unfortunately, this is not a card for me, ladies and gentlemen. This is a card for other people who are going to play decks I don't like. It lets you choose one or more of the following 4 things. Shuffle a Pokemon from your discard pile into your deck, a tool from your discard pile into your deck, a Stadium from your discard pile into your deck, or an energy from your discard pile into your deck. Now, the reason this one makes me nervous is because control players are going to have an absolute field day recovering all the things that they need, and that's going to make me sad. But actually, it's going to just be really good in a whole bunch of regular decks as well, because you know what? It's brilliant, and it recovers a whole bunch of stuff. It is a phenomenal recovery card. We are going to see a huge amount of it. It ends up at number 8. Although while we're here, I don't have anywhere else to put this card, and I don't think it gets to the top 10 on its own. So Floatzel. Single water energy, put up to 2 item cards from your discard pile into your hand. This is another one that control players are going to absolutely love. Stage 1, single energy, get your items back, it's good. I'm sure some people would want to put this on their top 10 list, and I think it is a great card, but I don't think it's as good as Empoleon or Collapse Stadium and Magma Basin, so sorry. If it makes you feel better, it did almost get on the list all by itself. Now, in at number 7, we've got Arceus V-Star, and this is one that I am extremely confused about and don't really know what to do with. I could see this being an absolute top-tier deck that wrecks the metagame, and I could see this being kind of meh. Now, the Pokemon V lets you search your deck for up to 3 basic energy and attach them to your Pokemon V in any way you like. For 2 energy, that's pretty good energy acceleration. And then the V-Star does the same thing for 3 energy, but it also does 200 damage, so you're getting your energy out really nicely while doing good damage. But it's the ability that really makes me happy here, because it lets you search your deck for any 2 cards and put them into your hand, and that wins games. Now, it is a V-Star power, so remember it is 1 V-Star power per game. If you've got multiple V-Stars out, you still only get to choose 1 V-Star power. But you know what? This is kind of brilliant. And I do believe people are going to play Arceus. You know, it's got good energy acceleration and all of that. But I can see people playing Arceus just because it sits on your bench. And then when you're ready, it literally gives you the perfect 2 cards to win the game. Cannot be the only one that thinks that's good. And a card that's going to be worth playing with Arceus in at number 6 is Double Turbo Energy. It is 2 colorless energy for any Pokemon, but you deal 20 less damage. Some decks that really want to play twin energy, some single prize decks, are now going to have 8 options, which is cool. But I love it with stuff like Arceus V, because Arceus V does no damage, it just accelerates energy. And in an attack like that, where you're not doing any damage, then doing 20 less damage doesn't matter, because you're not doing any damage anyway. So who really cares? I like this. This is going to be great. Some decks are going to play it because they want more than 4 twin energy, and they don't really want this, but it's better than nothing. Other decks are going to play it because there's no real downside. It is going to open up a lot of attacks on a lot of Pokemon that we didn't use previously, and that means it's a very good card. In at number 5, we've got that new Cynthia card, Cynthia's Aspiration. And put it bluntly, this is a new draw engine, and a really good one at that. You draw until you have 5 cards in your hand, fine, not great. But if any of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn, you draw until you have 8 cards in your hand instead. Emptying out your hand, drawing 8 cards, or leaving the 2 cards you really want in your hand and drawing 6 cards. This is a good new draw supporter, and we all know what happens when we have good draw supporters. They see a lot of play and they get played loads, and they are brilliant. Sure, you've got to have had a Pokemon KO'd the previous turn, so it's not for every deck. And sure, it's straight draw, not shuffle draw or discard and then draw. So again, it's not for every deck. And no, it's not going to start displacing things like Professor's Research or Marnie, which we all know at this stage are the staples. But we also know that that's not always enough in terms of draw engine, and this just became one of the best options outside of those 2 cards. In at number 4, we've got Bibarel, which makes me very happy, because it's got Okacheke artwork and is one of the best cards in the game, and it is beautiful artwork. But it's not made it up here for the artwork, it's made it up here because it's a phenomenal card. It is a Stage 1 Pokemon, and the ability says that once during your turn, you may draw until you've got 5 cards in your hand. Very much worth noting at this stage, it is limited to once during your turn, but it is once during your turn per Bibarel. If you've got multiple Bibarel in play, you can do this multiple times. And that's clearly a very, very good thing. Sure, it's got competition from Cinccino, which is going to, when it rotates out at least, be replaced by Liepard. Worse Pokemon, but same ability. That's the one that discards 1 card from your hand to draw 2. This is a very, very good card. It's a very good draw engine on a single prize Pokemon. This is the kind of thing that I'm going to be putting in like every deck I make from now until it rotates out, just like Cinccino was before it. It is a great single prize bench sitting draw engine, and we know that they're good. But there's even a jump. Even all the cards I've talked about so far have been really good cards. But even compared to them, there is a bit of a jump for the top 3. So in at number 3, we've got Manaphy, another card by Hayaganosuke here, and another one with amazing artwork. But again, it's not made it here for the artwork. It's got Bench Barrier. It's Mew. It is the new Mew. It doesn't have quite as good an attack as Mew had. Mew did have a sneaky good attack, but it's a Bench Barrier. And since we rotated, we've been playing without a bench barrier. Now we have a bench barrier. And it really is as simple as that. No, it's not going to stop Empoleon dropping damage counters. That's not what it does. But against decks like Jolteon, for instance, it's going to be pretty good. Against decks like Rapid Strike Urshifu, for instance, it's going to be pretty good. To put it bluntly, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be pretty good. It is going to be an absolute godsend for many people against many decks. It is a kind of card where you make a deck and you go, I cannot play this deck because of the bench hitters we've got at the moment. And then Manaphy comes along and he's all like, I've got your back, bro. And then you're like, yeah, cheers, Manaphy. That deck, which I didn't think was viable, just became viable. That is absolutely redonk. In at number 2, we've got Choice Belt. And Choice Belt is another one which is just going to make a ridiculous difference, see a redonkulous amount of play, and absolutely change the game. Could you see what Choice Belt does when you attach it to any Pokemon? It allows you to do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon V. Very much worth pointing out that when we say active Pokemon V, we also include V Max and V Star. V Max and V Star are subcategories of Pokemon V, so they all totally count here. This is ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely ridiculous. Because there are so many times we just need to do that little bit of extra damage. And now, anytime you need to do that little bit of extra damage, wonderful news, you can. It's one of those cards where there isn't really a huge amount to say about it like that. But you just turn around and you're like, there is absolutely no way this doesn't end up being a just game-breaking card. It is going to be one of the cards that defines a game. It is going to be one of the cards that makes a difference in approximately 1 billion different matchups. It is that good, ladies and gentlemen. It genuinely is that good. And there are going to be so many times now where we're going to be just a little bit short of a KO, and then we're going to realise Choice Belt's a thing, and then we're going to get the KO, and the game is going to be very, very different. So what does that leave in at number 1? Lumineon. And most of you probably knew Lumineon was going to get the number 1 spot before we started. But I do just want to point out, right? We didn't see Choice Belt going in at number 1, or Manaphy, or the new Cynthia card, or Double Turbo Energy. We've seen some phenomenal cards, which are going to see a huge amount of play and completely change the game, that can't get to number 1. That's how good Lumineon is. And in terms of ability, Lumineon is just Tapu Lele. You play it from your hand to your bench, you search your deck for supporter cards, you put it into your hand. Great in the early game for getting Professor's Research to get set up. Great in the mid to late game for getting Boss's Orders to Gust. And because everyone's playing Quick Ball, it means that if you've got a terrible start, but you've got a Quick Ball, or a Lumineon, or any other card that will get you a Lumineon, your bad start all of a sudden turns into a significantly better start. And that's kind of my point here, ladies and gentlemen. It is a redonkulous card, and it should be a one of in almost every deck. Sure, in the short term, we've got Crobat, and there are going to be people that don't want to play that because they're playing Crobat. That is obviously absolutely fine. But then we're going to end up in a situation before too long where Crobat goes away, and at that stage, yep, this is going to see a huge amount of play. This is a really, really good set, and we can't say that about every set, but this is a really, really good set. And even in the context of this phenomenal set, this is a pretty easy number one. It is that good, ladies and gentlemen. That gosh darn good. So there we go. That's what I need to tell you about the top 10 cards from Starbirth. It is a really good set. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, I now want to hear from you guys. Tell me what you think about this. Tell me how good you think this is in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWazzy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.